Howdy folks, Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer. Today we're going to have a gaming vlog. We're going to talk a little bit about, actually we're going to talk a lot about D&D 3.5. We're going to talk a little bit about Pathfinder. We're going to talk a little bit about World of Warcraft Legion. And we even have a special shout out that's going to go out at the end of the video. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, so let's start this thing off by, we'll talk about Pathfinder first. As you know, if you've been following me on previous vlogs, you know that I play in 3.5 D&D in a group for that, and also a group for Pathfinder. In our Pathfinder group, we meet every other week. And in our last session, we had been going through this dungeon of lizard folk type beings in search of another special stone that has special properties that we believe could unlock the secrets as to why magic is dying in the world that we're adventuring through. So we were searching for one of those in this particular dungeon, and we got to the end after getting past a dragon of the good nature. I believe it was bronze, and he had issued us a warning that there was something inside that he was charged with not allowing to leave the dungeon. And so we bargained with him, and he allowed us to pass, and we get to what we believe is the end here, and it was in a case, and by the time we got there, some other folks had already gotten there, and it was busted open, and there was what appeared to be another adventurer who had somehow started slaughtering the rest of his party, and we ended up having to take him out, and it released whatever it was that was in him that we believe was in this case. So that's where we're at on that. We're not. So we don't have a lot of closure there, even in this dungeon, because that's where we ended. But from all appearances, it would appear whatever was in there kind of took control of this guy, and he ended up killing his whole party or whatever. So that's where we are on that. There'll be a lot more to follow, I'm sure, in future vlogs on the Pathfinder campaign. Now, let's move on to the D&D 3.5 campaign, because we had an epic session this last Friday. A little background for those that have not been following: we are in a ginormous dwarven fortress. I'm playing a dwarf, Grunt Furbelly, who was exiled from his clan. He's a barbarian. He was exiled from his barbarian clan because his anger issues were so bad that he was actually hurting other members of the clan unnecessarily. So I have been searching for a way to redeem myself in my clan's eyes ever since. We find out about this lost dwarven fortress, and we're going through it. And I have found some artifacts, and we think we're going to unravel this mystery of what this place was and everything. And I have got it in my mind that I am now going to be the king of this fortress, because it's a dwarven fortress. There are no dwarves left here. Everything we've been running into are monsters and humanoids and undead and everything like that. So, by my math, as the dwarf, who's not very intelligent, I'm destined to be king. So, and I've even found a crown in the dungeon. So, yeah. And then in not this last session, but the session before, right at the end, we actually found the Axe of the Dwarvish Lords. And so, of course, and I'm illiterate because I'm a barbarian, but one of our fellow members in the group, Taberlin Greyfallow, he is a scribe and an author, as well as being a fighter, and he's been teaching me how to read and write. So this is the first moment where I can actually read something, and it says on the axe of the Dwarvish Lords in runes on the axe, and that is the breakthrough moment where I'm actually able to read something on my own for the first time. Needless to say, now I have a crown. I have the axe of the Dwarvish Lords. There's nothing stopping me now, my character, from being king of this fortress. And then, of course, the idea is I will invite my entire clan to come to inhabit the fortress, and I will be redeemed, and I will be benevolent, and the whole bit. That's in my mind. That's the whole plan, you know. So along the way, we have hooked up with a rogue who we had advertised for in one of the local towns, that we needed a rogue. We need rogue services because we run into a lot of traps and so forth and so on. And we get one. And of course, it was our buddy Kevin plays the character. The character's name is Andrew. And so he joins the party a few sessions ago. And ever since then, his character has been, he's been willing to help just enough to where it benefits him. And we're catching on to that. And then in the session before last, he had done some particularly shifty things where he had, for lack of a better term, ninja'd a few items from the party treasure without asking, and the room that we actually found the axe of the Dwarvish Lords, he was refusing to go in there and help me clear the room or check it for traps or anything of that nature. And it turned out that was the room where we found the axe. So, and that was only because I just said to hell with it and went in there. And then, of course, Taberlin, my right-hand man, he goes in there. You know, we both get turned to stone in the mean. You know, there were some of a crab or spider creature that came down, and if you got bit and failed your saving throw, you got turned to stone. You got petrified, which happened to both of us. We were out of the fight. And so the rest of the party finishes the fight, you know, and all that, and we find the axe of the Dwarvish Lords. If we had listened to the rogue, who didn't want to go in there and check it for traps or search it or anything else like that, and just bypassed it, we would have never found it. So, anyway, so we continue on. We get into another fight where I finally get to use the axe, some of its powers, and so forth. And that brings us to this last session. Prior to the session itself, the guy who plays Taberlin, Jonathan, our buddy Jonathan, he started a Facebook instant message group. Everybody minus the DM and the guy who plays Andrew. So it was just the rest of us. And he says, you know, we got to do something about this rogue. There's something wrong with him. I don't trust him, I'm afraid. Now, mind you, this is all being done in this message group through Facebook in character. So we wouldn't be accused of, you know, metagaming by the DM or anybody else. We could say, well, no, this would be a conversation that we would have had in-game, but we couldn't really do it with Kevin sitting here, the guy who plays Andrew. You know, we needed to do it out of earshot, so this is the best way to do it. And so anyway, Taberlin says, yeah, we got to do something about this guy, and other people are chiming in and saying, yeah, I think you're right, and everything. And Grunt, my character, I'm saying, well, yeah, I am a little suspicious of him and so forth. I think I will confront him and order him to relinquish anything that he took without our knowledge, or with our knowledge that we caught him stealing or whatever, and then I'm going to banish him from the kingdom. That was my plan. But the other members in the group still had dialogue saying how they were, if they had to take him out, how they would do it. And it involved casting True Seeing on me, first of all, because I was going to be the one confronting him. And we've already seen that he has a teleport at will ability. He has the ability to go invisible. So we were very concerned about how we were going to do this tactically if it came to that and so forth. So this was all worked out ahead of time. So we start the session, and the DM's like, okay, let's start and everything. And I say, okay, first thing I'm going to do is I walk over to Andrew, and I get right in his face, and I'm like, Rogue, you must speak to me immediately. We need to discuss this issue of you taking party loot and everything. And I'm doing it in a very, foreboding way, because I'm using my Intimidate skill. So then I roll for Intimidate, and of course I Intimidate. As a barbarian, I intimidate him successfully. And that shakens him, which means, he gets a minus on attack rolls and saves and all these other things. So, and the other thing is, our mage had cast True Seeing on me. So when I go over to confront him, and I start saying, you and I need to talk about this, he explains, Kevin, the player, says, well, you actually see, that, because he looks like an elf without the True Seeing, and now that I have it, he says, well, you can actually see that my nose is missing, and he starts to describe this shit, and as Grunt, I'm thinking, this dude's freaking undead. There's an undead spy in my kingdom. So I'm just like, rage, I'm going to kill you! And it's on, baby. And so he does his teleport thing, and he's bouncing around, and we're inside of a conjured shelter that the mage had made. And the DM had to look it up real quick and see that, none of the doors, the shutters, there were shutters, windows, but everything would be shut. And so it would take another action for him to get out the door and so forth. And he's trying to run away from me, and I'm whacking him with the axe of the Dwarvish Lords. And I'm doing some damage and everything, and he's doing everything he can to get away. Everybody else is trying to maneuver to get to him and all that. And the bastard makes 2 saving throws in a row. The mage tries Feeble Mind on him, and he's at a -2 because I've shaken him with Intimidate. He makes it rolls a natural 19, makes it exactly how he had to make it, and then the druid casts Baleful Polymorph on him to turn him into something that we could just coup de grace. And he makes it again. He rolls another 19. So he makes both of them exactly how he has to make them. So then I'm chasing around. He turns invisible. He teleports. He finds the chimney in the room. And as long as he can see some daylight, it's enough that allows him to teleport. Boom, he teleports onto the roof. I'm outside. I have a huge climb skill. I put every point I could put into climb. I've always done that because my character likes to have the high ground as a barbarian. He likes to attack from the high ground with surprise. So that's how I made the character. So I'm able to lickety-split get up on the roof. I'm chasing him. Taberlin's trying to follow. He goes invisible. So I'm the only one that can see him because I got True Seeing. I hit him again. He jumps. He goes to like he's jumping off of the other side. But he clings on. He has spider climb. He clings on. So, of course, as a barbarian, I just jump. So I jump right past him, and I get a swing or something as I'm falling, and I can't remember if I hit him or not. I land, and then Taberlin's up above looking down, and he's like, where is he, Grunt? And I'm like, he's right there, right underneath you, and he's right above me. And Tab jumps, and as he's coming down, the DM says, Tab says, I'm going to drag my sword as I'm coming down and try to hit him, And some bitch crits him. And it's a bad crit. It's like a head wound, severed spine or some shit. It basically kills him. But he's going to be dead in 6 rounds, and we coup de grace him and everything. So we managed to kill this rogue who my character's thinking is undead because of what he looked like with True Seeing. Turned out he was a changeling, something or other, arcane trickster, changeling, whatever, and he was making himself look like an elf. He was actually lawful evil. Now here's the really good part of this story. So we finish killing him, and then the DM and Kevin, the player, they start laughing because they're like, well, that really screwed up his plans, because unbeknownst to the rest of us, they had talked because Kevin's idea for his character was that night when we would have went to sleep, he was going to incapacitate the mage because he was worried about Feeble Mind. He was incapacitate him and steal my axe of the goddamn Dwarvish Lords. That evil bastard was going to take my frickin' axe from my kingdom. That shit didn't go too well, did it? And it's all thanks to one Taberlin Greyfowl who said, you know, guys, pulled everybody, you know, role-playing wise, he would have pulled everybody aside and said, hey, we got to do something about the rogue here, you know. And of course, that all took place in Facebook Messenger. But nevertheless, from a role-playing standpoint, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. And had we not done that, he very well could have incapacitated the mage, stole my axe, and gotten away. And he was going to go sell it. That was his intention. You know, that's a relic. Who knows how much you can, the axe of the Dwarvish, 50,000 gold or 100,000 gold, who knows. Anyway, and so we start freaking out because we're like, and particularly the guy who plays Tab, Jonathan, the guy who plays Tab, because he's like, I have never been more vindicated in my life as I knew it. And that is why you play tabletop role-playing. You cannot get that experience anywhere else, in any other medium, period. I don't care. You don't get that. And it's a particularly poignant scenario or instance to show people that say you can never have player characters play an evil character in a role-playing game. They say it breaks the game. It does not break the game. If you have good role players, and we have good role players, that's what we do. And you had a good role player who was playing an evil character, and he was being conniving. He was already thinking about what he was going to do as a lawful evil character to benefit himself and to hell with the rest of us, which is what an evil character would do. And you had the rest of us who, some of us are lawful, some of us are chaotic, but we're all good, or neutral at least. And we're deciding, hey, we don't trust this guy because based on what we've seen, and we need to do something, and we made a plan, and we stuck to it. And the funniest part about it was when that whole night started off, and I started saying, I'm going to go over and get in his face, and I'm intimidating him, and blah, blah, blah. And the mage is like, yeah, and I cast True Seeing on him, and da-da-da, and everything else. And then Andrew's having to react and everything, and the DM, Brad, who is the DM, Brad's, after, I don't know, 5-10 minutes of this shit, Brad's just like, hey, y'all let me know if you need a DM. Because he didn't have to do anything. Because it was all roleplay, man. It was all back and forth. And it was fantastic. Brad wasn't saying that because he was upset. He was saying it as, hey, y'all go with it, man. Y'all have, you know. And then, of course, it came to the point where we had to start rolling for initiative and everything. And then, of course, then the DM had to get involved and everything. But that is tabletop role-playing at its finest right there. And, of course, now Kevin he already had another character rolled up just in case shit went bad, and it did. So, fantastic night. It was amazing. So, I just wanted to tell that story. Now, a couple other things. And this video has gone long. It's over 18 minutes. I don't really care, because I had to tell the story, and I wanted to talk about Pathfinder, and I want to talk about a couple more things. World of Warcraft Legion. Somehow I found out about a game of veterans, veteran gamers. It's called V3 Gaming, and the V3 is, if you were doing leet speak type thing, where you V and then the number 3 for the E, and then the rest of veteran and then gaming is what it stands for. Is a group of military veteran gamers who have come together to all game together, and particularly try to help any veterans that are struggling, that might, instead of turning to alcohol or drugs or, prescription drugs or hurting themselves or anything else like that, they have gaming as an outlet, and all of us that, as a support group, can help them as fellow veterans, So I found these guys, and so we created a guild on I think it's Denarg. I'll put it in this description below just in case you guys, if you know any veterans that are interested in joining such a group, I'll put the link below for the Facebook group and the server and the whole bit down below. So, great group. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was, I've talked about, so I am part of TSR Games, the new TSR Games. I'm the project manager there, and we have Satine Phoenix, who I've spoken of before. She had her charity event. She does one of our podcasts. So she's also doing a thing called, and I want to make sure, let me look this up real quick. I want to make sure I get the name right. Maze Arcana is what it's called, and I think it's all one word. It is. Maze Arcana, and it's on Twitch, and it's a group, her and a guy named Rudy Rutenberg, who's also an Army veteran. He's the DM, and you got Satine and a few other folks who are doing a Eberron campaign, 5th edition rules Eberron campaign on Twitch, and they've already done 3 episodes, and they have their schedule up for the other episodes coming up. So I'll put a link below for the Twitch channel, and I will put a link for the YouTube channel, because they have a YouTube channel. So if you miss them on Twitch, then they go up on the YouTube channel. So I will put those down. I've watched the first episode, and they had a few audio problems at the very first episode, getting their feet wet and everything. But after that, it was fantastic. So if you like this kind of stuff where people live stream D&D tabletop stuff, or you can watch it later on YouTube, if you like that stuff, and particularly if you're an Eberron fan of that campaign setting, I think you'll get a kick out of this. It's a great group of people, and they got a whole schedule set up and the whole bit. So make sure you go check that out if you're so interested. And that's it, guys. We will catch you on the flip side.